New week, same Brendan, different build. This week we're doing something I love, always loving maths back in the day, and that's data visualization. If you did your MBA or if you went to UBC with me, you remember the classic saying, never use a 3D pie chart because it's ugly and makes no sense. And I did something even worse or better in my view, and this is create a 3D visualization of healthcare data, thanks to Claude having access to clinical trials, to visualize what is going on in digital mental health across North America, primarily within Canada, US, and actually some international as well. But one of the challenges we have when it came to data or visualizing anything, it's that it's not fun, hard to understand. And I want to change that in a new funky way, kind of doing some 2D mapping. If you remember old GTA back on the Razer phones when you could play it, kind of that same aesthetic feel here. So what I built was a way of visualizing the clinical trials across the world, primarily focusing on where I do a lot of my work in pediatric digital mental health. So what happens here is I segmented each area into, this is the Canada, as you can see, Maple District, the US, the Nordic countries, and then the rest of the world over here. And when you go over to a building, bloop, 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 it gives you the information around what the process is, kind of how much the enrollment is, what are the key factors, and a quick little summary, as well as taking you to the site where the clinical trial is. This was a unique way I was trying to really experiment here with how can you take what is, access to all this data and make it fun and interactive. We have different buildings based on if they're recruiting, if they're complete, if they're still active, as well as being able to filter regional in Canada, the US, and really also focusing on what were the interventions, if it's apps, telemedicine, all, CBT. What I found really unique with this was how simple it was to kind of do different things. If I were to improve this overall, I think what would be more fun is firstly being able to read what's on the screen, but showing different buildings. What I try to do here is if you run the timeline, let me just run it here, you can kind of see how it's moving. I think one of the more powerful things Claude or all these AI tools can do is not just visualize data, because who wants to see a building, but show timelines and progression. What I found really useful and I want to do more of is kind of seeing where the importance are. Where are buildings being built? Where are they falling down? Where is the revenue and funding going into? And I think that's what I'm going to be doing next for really an understanding of the landscape around pediatric health investment into it. One thing I really wanted to create, or the whole goal of this was to recreate, if you watch Silicon Valley, the entrance scene where you see buildings going up and down and businesses changing. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get there, but I think we have a unique and fun way of showing how data can be visualized in a 3D manner to really show different things and kind of seeing where the focus is. And I think this gives you a very good visual sense that Canada and US are investing heavily in these clinical trials. Last thing, like anything else or any good app, is the Easter egg. So if you can see here, we have a little soccer ball. When you waddle over to the soccer ball, you give it a kick, and bam, 4th of July goal. No reason for this. I just got inspiration doing the Google program to have a Google little Easter egg in here, and that's the Easter egg for this. Hope you guys enjoy. I can write in the description kind of how we set this up. Claude gives you access to an MCP for all clinical trials, so you can build any visualization you want. Highly recommend if you're looking to get into tools to using that integration to try and testing out how to visualize data more effectively. Maybe not as funky as this. If you're a data scientist, your eyes are probably bleeding looking at this, but I think it's a fun way of seeing what is the possible ways of showing off the work you're doing, visualizing data, and allowing people to really understand what's going on. And that's what I built for this week. Hope you guys enjoy. For next week, let's just say it brings back some good old-fashioned games you remember in the retirement homes. Bingo. That's all I'm going to say. Tune in next week for some fun with bingo, but in a more interactive Zoom-esque way. I'm giving away too much. Hope you guys enjoy. Bye.